Welcome back, everyone. This is Eugene, and as promised, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a review and tell you about this unique BMW 325 convertible. So let's begin. So it's 1987 model year, 325 CI. So C at that time stood for convertible. It's a 2.5 liter straight six engine. I'll show you that in about a minute. But let's go over some of the basics for this car. All right, so it was produced in mid 80s to early 90s. It came in a few different variants. In US, we had the coupe, we had the sedan, and we had the convertible. And some areas in Canada and Europe were fortunate enough to have a wagon. So this example is a convertible. Right, so right off the bat, as you're looking at it, you can tell that this car is probably not the way it rolled off the factory, and you'd be pretty close to being right. So this car has been restored and has been tastefully modified with a whole bunch of little and big pieces that we'll get into in a second. So these cars are very rare. Right now they're not very expensive, but the difficulty is finding parts for it because it hasn't been made in a long time. And then having somebody, whether it's yourself getting the knowledge to install it or having a shop that knows exactly these cars and is able to do the work for you. So let's get into some exterior details. All right, so from the front you can see that this car has the center and the high beams are yellow. So this is typical kind of European style. It goes along with the European license plate. Obviously that's for decoration, right? So the outer headlights have been upgraded from regular halogen to the xenon with projector lights. These typically came in later model cars, early 90s. All right, as you start to look down, you can see the front lower part right below the bumper. This, if you know a little bit about these cars, you know that you would never see that in a convertible, a stock car. So this is a 325 IS front. It's called Valence, and it's been custom fitted to this car to give it that aggressive, more aggressive stance, right? And you could see the fog lights coming out a little bit because this Valence was never meant for this type of car, because this is more on a luxury scale versus an IS, which is more of a sporty model, which were pretty typically coupes. All right, so making a way around, you could see the wheels and tires, and the car sits a little bit low. So this car has been lowered on some springs to give it a little bit more aggressive stance, and these are BBS inspired wheels, which give it this classic look. Right, so you see it's a soft top. Going around the back, you could see also the lip spoiler, right? So this also is from a 325 IS, right? And then keep looking down. The tail lights, usually the corners are yellow, and in this one they're all blended to be red, and I think it gives it a really nice touch, right? So going down, and the rear valence, right? So this is a very unique piece. This is a replica piece from an E30 M3, right? So this type of BMW body is called E30. So that's from an E30 M3. On a convertible, you would never ever see anything like this roll off the factory. All right, so why don't we take a look inside? Okay, so looking at the inside, it's a 5-speed manual transmission car, which is definitely a joy to drive, right? And you could tell right away that the steering wheel, it's a Momo Sport steering wheel, and what you see here, right here, this is an adjuster hub. What it means is it extends the steering wheel closer to the driver's seat, right? Because these steering wheels, unfortunately, are not adjustable. So off the factory, it came with a very large steering wheel, which was very close to the dashboard. It's nicknamed the bus steering wheel. So it's big, it's not very comfortable, and this has been upgraded for the driver's comfort. right? Also, if you take a look at the gauges, they're white with silver rings around them. So the silver rings are really inspired by the later model cars. Now most BMWs come with those, and white inspired. These are typically sports car. I think it gives a real nice touch, right? You can see some nice pedals there, and upgraded and weighted shifter knob, so that gives a little bit more of a feel as you're driving, right? So if you take a look at the interior for 1987, it's been very well maintained. All right, so then there are a few other subtle touches here. So you could see the rear sunshade. That's the wind deflector actually, and when the top is down, it's there's not much. It's reduced wind noise and not as much wind, right? And if you look towards the back again, if you know these cars, you could see the rear headrests. Those were not standard on these types of cars, right? Of that year. So that's for the exterior, right? And you can see it has some little dents and dings here, and I think for a car of this age, it's pretty well maintained, and a lot of times you want to keep the patina and not make the car look brand spanking new, because some people are into fully restored, but this is something more of a driver's car, and it also shows its age, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So stay tuned for the next bit on the engine compartment, and a couple of things from the technical perspective. Welcome back, everyone. So we're still here with the E30, and as promised, we're gonna take a look at the engine bay and some of the components, some of the things that have been upgraded, and see really what we can expect from this 32-year-old car, right? So this engine has a factory code. It's called M20. It's a 2.5 straight six, off the factory developed 184 horsepower. So probably by now it's a little bit less, right? So to compensate for the loss, right, this particular car has a cold air intake, which has some ups and downs, right? You get a little bit more of that intake sound, you get a little bit more air into the engine, but the downside is when the car heats up, the intake sucks in hot air as well, so that there's a little bit of that heat soak, right? So you can see suspension wise, you can see this brace, which improves the handling, right? So what you don't see here is this car has an upgraded chip, which changes the air to fuel ratio a little bit and gives it a few extra ponies here and there. So overall, I would say it's pretty much irrelevant at this point for this car at this age, because it's by no means a track car or performance car. But compared to other E30 convertibles of this age, it's pretty peppy, and I think it's slightly better acceleration, slightly better response time, right? So, and one thing that I want to point out is, let me take a step back, and you could see how the hood opens. This is very interesting because it has its again pros and cons, because the pro is on the side you have much more access from the left side, but the downside is from the front. It's very difficult to get anywhere near the front of the engine where the radiator area is. So that's an interesting kind of a historical. That's what the older cars used to have. All right, a couple more things I wanted to mention mechanically about this car. It has upgraded lighter flywheel with a short shifter clutch. What that means is upgraded flywheel. It sheds a little bit of weight, and short shifter. The car shifts quicker. The actual movement of the gear lever is shorter, and that gives a little bit better driving dynamics. Right? It also has a couple of upgraded suspension components underneath. It'll be very hard to get under, as you could see. Right? It's pretty low. We really need to get this car up on the lift to show. Right? So another interesting thing to note about this car is the sound. Right, so everybody's always concerned about the sound, the exhaust, and so forth. So this has MagnaFlow, free flow, full exhaust, and I'm gonna start it up in a minute, and I'll let you listen to it. So it's you can see the twin tips, It looks nice, but it really replicates the way it came from the factory. So what really makes a difference is the sound from this exhaust rather than the look. So why don't we get in? We'll start it up. So in the meantime, another interesting aspect of these E30s is, in a manual transmission car, generally you have to depress the clutch to start it, but as you can see, I'm not doing that. And alright, here we go. So let's go out, take a look at the engine bay, how it's running. You can see it's running very smooth for this for the car this age, which really is attested to the maintenance and you know, upkeep of a car like this. All right, so we're gonna go out the back, listen to the exhaust. And you can see a nice deep tone, right? And it's a little bit surprising from a straight six engine with pretty much you know, considerably small volume. So let me rev it a little bit so you get to hear it. Right. So what you can also notice is, as I'm revving the car, you don't see the tachometer moving, and this is one of the typical issues for cars of this age. Is the actual instrument cluster. You know, the gears inside tend to wear out, and this is definitely something to be addressed, and it's not a major thing, but you know, it's a functionality of the car. So let me do just one last walk around so you get to enjoy the view. And as I'm walking around, I'll give you a little bit of information on the driving dynamics. So this car being very light, so it's slightly over 1 ton. You know, with lower stance and some upgraded suspension components, it feels like a go-kart. Obviously the engine is not very powerful. It's plenty for some back roads. So right now I'm kind of in central Pennsylvania. There are a lot of small back roads. On a beautiful day like this, you really get to enjoy it, right? And again, this being a convertible, in few weeks when it gets warm, having that top down is really enjoyable. So one thing to note, and one thing that I want you guys to take away from this is, you know, restoring a classic car is not that much if you want to tinker with it. There's not a lot of electronics here. There's not a lot of things that you can mess up, because like I said before, this car is not expensive to begin with. So if you like restoring cars, working cars, this is one of the nice things to consider. All right, so any questions, write to us in comments. Myself or Andre would gladly answer them. We'll gladly you know, have a discussion on any of the videos, including this one. So I hope you enjoyed this episode on this 1987 BMW 325 convertible. Subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more fun and great videos.